The drive shaft needs to be able to do this. You're eating up your transmission really fast.
Look at that difference.
I measured that to about 1 1/16 inches.
Use a Toyota part on your foxbody Mustang. Hello and welcome to Gearhead 704. I'm Matt and today we are back on Tarheelfox. Tarheelfox is my 89 GT Cobra clone. That is my baby, to be honest, and I spent way too much money on her. In fact, I have a video on how much I spent on the car a little while back, but it's been through a lot of changes since then. So if you want to see an update on that and you want to know how much I've currently spent after the paint job and the latest engine work, let me know, maybe I'll do a video on that. But today what we are doing is a little bit of maintenance. The big thing though is I am replacing the drive shaft. The drive shaft that is on there currently connected to my T-56 Magnum. I'm having some vibration issues and also we have some wear in the drive shaft that I'll show you. I'm not sure it's the right one for the car, to be honest. Just having some issues around that. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap it. I talked to Bruce at Modern Driveline. He is a Tremec Elite dealer. I have all of his information down in the description below so you can check him out. But he hooked me up with a T-56 Magnum drive shaft for my car. It's pretty awesome, so we're gonna install that today. That's gonna be the main point of the video. But also, we are gonna take care of my oil filter adapter. In case you missed that video, my oil filter literally fell off this car and I was helped out by Hicks House Videos. That's a very funny video. If you haven't seen it, I will throw one of those cards. Luckily, nothing happened. We caught it in time, but yeah, the oil filter adapter that was on there, definitely not a good part. I'm gonna compare that today as well, show you guys that. First thing we gotta do is get it into the shop. I am at Fox Mustang Restoration, which you can see right there on the van, foxresto.com. Love coming out here and you see they're all about Fox bodies and the truck. The truck makes an appearance. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. I'll compare the drive shafts. We're gonna go ahead and get the old one off, show you the differences, and yeah, just get into it. So this is something I really wanna do. I don't want that drive shaft to continue to be an issue for me. Got the right one, and big thing is I don't want it to tear up my transmission. Let me go ahead and get inside, get the old drive shaft off, and we'll get into it. All right, we got the car up in the air. Matt is up under the car, taking the drive shaft out like I told you guys, replacing it, but Matt's gonna kind of explain why and what we're seeing. Matt, what I know is I've had some fluid leakage from here from the transmission is kind of what I told you, and you took it from there. So.
And refresh my memory, when this transmission was put in with this drive shaft, the transmission was brand new out of the box, right?
That is correct, yeah.
And was the drive shaft new?
The drive shaft was also new, yeah. They were put together at the same time.
Okay. I know that the length of the T-56 is different than the T5. And one of the things that I saw on this, obviously the first thing we saw that we do have a little bit of a leak here. It's actually pretty cleaned up, but you can see the staining right there from the oil leak.
Yep.
Right. You see how close this is here, how close this yoke is to the edge of this tail shaft housing?
Yeah.
That is too close. And why is that too close? Well, the reason is, if you just pan back, look at the angle of the drive shaft in relation to the tail shaft housing, and then back here to the pinion flange where it bolts to the rear end. See how much that drive shaft is angled?
It's a pretty steep angle, yeah.
Yeah, so right now we don't have any weight on the suspension, so the suspension's pushed all the way down. Well, when you put the car onto the ground and this rear end gets compressed up, when this goes up, this drive shaft goes forward a little bit. So we're already pretty much maxed out. So
that's why you were looking for more space there, is that right? Okay.
Right. With it completely decompressed or the suspension unloaded, it is already too close. So when we put this down in here, it's gonna push that just a little bit further in that way, or push this yoke a little bit more.
Further than what we can see right now.
Right.
I got you, okay.
And if you think about that, so think about going over bumps, or more specifically, the reason that there is a certain amount of play there is because as you're driving down the road and the suspension does this, going over bumps and stuff, that yoke is going just in and out just a little bit, and that's why that play needs to be there, so you have that little bit of that slip right there. Pretty much why I wanted to check on this drive shaft, and I think you talked to somebody about the differences in drive shaft lengths and whether or not there is a different drive shaft for the T-56.
Yeah, Bruce at Modern Driveline set us up with the replacement one, and T-56 is definitely different than like a TKO. I looked that up myself, in the TKO 5-speeds, you know, I think TKO 3550, whatever, it's definitely different, and those are very popular aftermarket transmissions, but the T-56 is a different length. So
we know that the drive shaft, just by looking at it, is too long, and the fact that the seal's leaking reinforces that on a brand new transmission that's got less than 20,000 miles on it.
Oh yeah, definitely way less. I think it's only maybe 10 at this point.
Oh,
so.
10,000 miles. So that definitely should not be leaking. So I think we have a new drive shaft, and so we'll pop this one out and let's start by comparing.
Okay, let's get it down, guys. I'm gonna let Matt do the work there because I'm not really doing much with my back right now. Plus, you know, make him do the work. That's what we do around here, right?
Excuses, excuses. Drive shaft bolts are not your standard hex bolt. They're a 12.12 millimeter, and I've actually got a little 12.12 millimeter impact flex socket to make it real easy.
Yeah, the 12-point socket is a must.
Okay.
All right.
There's the drive shaft.
So, drive shaft out. Let's go compare with the new one we got. Well, actually, we got a used one. Bruce had this one, so I got a little cheaper because he didn't need it anymore, but it was lightly used, and we're going to take a look and compare it to this one. Drive shaft is out like we said, and Matt's going to show us the difference. There is a difference here, guys. I definitely need to change it. So, there we go, side by side. Gonna go top to bottom, and our old one is on the right. Yep. New one's on the left. Take a look. Look at that difference.
I mean, measured that to about an inch and a 16th.
Inch and a 16th difference? Okay. Yep. Also, I noticed too, this one is wider. I don't know if that matters or not.
It really doesn't.
Okay, as long as it's balanced, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is probably my leak, right?
This would be why the seal was leaking, because this being that much longer, with the car up in the air with the suspension unloaded, it was almost jammed all the way forward. So when you put that rear end down, it goes in even further, which means it was jammed up against there. You may even feel a difference in the suspension, like going over bumps. Yeah. If it felt a little stiff, or if you were getting a bang when you went over bumps.
I got a clunk. Remember, you heard it too. We thought maybe it was the rear end, but maybe it wasn't the rear end.
It could probably
have been this
drive shaft slamming into the tail shaft.
It might have not been. We'll have to drive it and see. But
and here's the other thing: if that being the case, if it goes in far enough, the output shaft of the transmission is being bottomed out in the yoke. You're actually throwing all the gear lash of all those gears and that main output shaft out of alignment. So you're eating up your transmission really fast. At bare minimum, you're beating up the seal and the yoke by slamming that drive shaft into the end of that tail shaft housing.
All right, well, let's get the used one we got from Modern Driveline and Bruce up here on the table, and we'll give you guys a better look at that. This is my lightly used drive shaft Bruce Modern Driveline hooked me up with. Pretty excited about it. Obviously, you see that it's a much better length. We think it's going to solve the issue. One thing I didn't mention, I mentioned the transmission fluid I was seeing. Occasionally, also when the car is cold, go into second gear, I would get a grind in the morning. So I was just talking to Matt about that off camera, and we're thinking that maybe that also was causing the grinding issue, was having the longer drive shaft than I needed. So this might solve that issue too. I'm pretty excited. Maybe the rear end's good, who knows. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead, bolt it up in there, and then we're also gonna do the oil filter adapter as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get it bolted in and go from there. Okay, before we install the drive shaft, Matt's got a couple things he wants to point out.
Obviously we have a leaking seal because the drive shaft is too long. So we're putting in a new drive shaft, but now we still have the old seal, which is worn out. So you definitely, you know, if you run into this situation, you definitely wanna make sure you replace the seal. And they're just a press-in fit, so I'm gonna try, hopefully this tool will work, but probably not. You wanna get in there and pop that out.
So that's why I've got a little bit of leak, because the seal got messed up by the incorrect drive shaft.
Yeah, exactly.
So like Matt said, it's a good idea to replace the seal when you're doing this. So we got a new seal, gasket maker, dielectric grease. I'd say that a long time, Matt, dielectric grease. It's been a minute.
Yeah,
that's for OGs, Matt.
Familiar with it.
Yeah, that's for just the OG people.
That's true.
By the way, we do appreciate all the new subscribers, and I know you guys are wondering about the 84. They're wondering what you're gonna do. We're gonna have an update video on that coming soon, to stay tuned to the channel for that.
Yes. So on the inside of this seal, it has one of those like circular springs that retains the seal and keeps the pressure of the seal against the drive shaft yoke. But they're also easy to knock off. So one thing I like to do with this type of seal, whether it be a harmonic balancer or a rear main seal or one of these, I like to put a bunch of dielectric grease around that spring. And the reason I'm doing that is really not for lubrication, but it's gonna help retain the spring and keep you from popping it out in case whatever you're putting in goes in sideways. So that's always a possibility.
Yeah, I remember that on the balancer doing
right. That. And just like the balancer also, I do want to take some more grease, and on the inside to where the yoke is actually gonna ride, I'm a brand new seal, that's dry. You know, and when you start moving, that drive shaft starts spinning, you know, several hundred RPM pretty quickly. So instead of doing a dry start on that, I like to also spread a good amount of dielectric grease into that seal area. So where the spring is, and then also on the inside where the drive shaft yoke is gonna sit. And the last thing I like to do, we're installing it, so we wanna make sure it seals. This is still a press fit, but I still wanna make sure it seals okay. So where it's gonna insert into the transmission, I like putting Just smearing a little bit of RTV on there. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. We'll change gloves and then we'll go ahead and install that. Usually I'd have a seal installer for this, but the sealer installer that I have does not have a circle for the output shaft to go through. You can also install these just using a hammer. The trick with the hammer is not to bend the seal out of shape and also not to hit anything else. I may need to find a tool that will work for this. Let me see if I can find a tool.
Matt found a tool here.
I think I found some at work. It's a small, actually for a Toyota, but a small oil filter socket.
Okay.
And you'd actually use to take the
There you
oil
go.
filter
Use a
housing.
Toyota part on your Fox Body Mustang. Hey, at least it's better than a GM part, right? Yeah, it's a tool.
That's how you want it to look. You notice it's not touching that output shaft. I got that nice cup action right there. And make sure it's seated all the way in. I'm not hitting anything but the outer flange of the seal, just making sure it's sealed into the transmission. And there we go, it's installed. We'll wipe it down and put the drive shaft in.
All right, so Matt's putting the new drive shaft in.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure it's not too far out, so I want to put it in, kind of figure out where it's at. This is going to be a little deceiving. The new seal is just the liquid seal. It doesn't have the dust boot. The other seal had a dust boot that came out to about here.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Right, so this seal is a little bit different. It doesn't look like it goes in as far as it actually does, but you know, so there's still
look how much more
inside
past
the
your
transmission.
finger. That's more than enough, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
more than enough. So as the rear end goes up and down, the drive shafts needs to be able to do this. Otherwise, if it's just slammed all the way in, again, you're gonna end up leaking seals, bad bushings, and stuff like that. Speaking of that, the drive shaft yoke bushing, pretty easy to check. You can just grab it after it's in. T5s are the same way. And you can do this with the drive shaft even bolted in. You can just grab the yoke and wiggle it up and down. Tiny bit of play is okay, but if you can wobble that thing pretty good, the yoke bushing's worn out. So you need to do a drive shaft yoke, a yoke bushing, and a seal. It's the only way to stop that leak. If you only replace 2 out of those 3, you're gonna end up leaking again and ruining your new drive shaft yoke. The new seal's in, drive shaft length looks perfect. I'm gonna get the red Loctite, we're gonna bolt those down and your new drive shaft's in.
All right, what you're looking at, guys, is the oil filter adapter. This is the old one that had a lot of grinds on it, and Brent, as you can see, did that awesome, amazing welding job to keep that in place when my oil filter fell off. Brent from Hicks House Videos, definitely check him out. And then right here is the new one that Matt got. You can see this is actually one piece, no welding required, factory style, and it's good to go. So yeah, this is all I needed. This one used to move in and out, this part here. All right, so we're doing that, and then we'll have the drive shaft in, and then we'll close the video out. One other thing, guys, right here, Matt is going to, you can see the new oil filter adapter up in there.
Yeah, it's torqued into the block now. To lock it in, we're gonna take a starter punch, and we're actually just gonna ping it right between the two where the block threads come in contact with the adapter threads. So we're just gonna go ahead, doesn't matter where, we're just kind of like misshaping it so it locks into place. So right there above my finger, you see that little shiny spot right there?
Yeah.
I've actually like distorted the metal in the block a little bit. You just mushroomed it over and it locks it in. So this way you don't have to worry about it unscrewing on you when you're revving your motor again.
And sorry for all the noise, but Tiffany's over there getting work done. Say hi, Tiffany. That's another video you'll have to check out. I don't know if it's up first or after, but yeah, we make 2 at once over here, guys. 2 at once. Obviously got that on, oil filters back on. Sorry, I know it's a little dark, but I wanted to show you guys. I got all the lights over here for the drive shaft. Drive shaft is installed. Again, this came from Modern Driveline. Definitely, like Matt showed you earlier, a much better fit because it's the right length. And I was really lucky, guys, in that my seal was the only thing that was bad and my bushing was okay. So I'm gonna need to test this out, see if, you know, I'm leaking anymore. I don't think I will. Also gonna check out second gear, make sure that no longer grinds. Hopefully that is good. It wasn't happening all the time, just when the car was very cold. Matt mentioned that, you know, as things heat up, metal expands, so maybe that was why it got better later. But yeah, that's it. The drive shaft is in, gonna test it out, but there you go. But yeah, that's how you install an aluminum drive shaft for your T-56 Magnum. Again, I got this from Bruce at Modern Driveline, so definitely check him out. I have all his information down in the description below. And if you hit him up or call him, be sure and tell him Gearhead704 sent you. That would be awesome. But that's it for today. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Big thanks again to Matt and Jen over here at Fox Resto for helping me out. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button. If you're stopping in for the first time, please subscribe because I got a lot more Fox Body content coming. I also upload 2 times a week, every Sunday and Wednesday, so you can count on that consistent content. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll see you here next time on Gearhead 704.